Hi everyone, welcome to a new segment that I'm going to be doing solo that I call Words of a Wizard. These will sort of be ad hoc and do them as I see fit. Apologies already for the lighting and stuff. I just felt like doing it outside, but hopefully it's not too loud, etc., and comes across okay. Today I wanted to talk about how to awaken your friends and family and that sort of urge that we have to facilitate other people's awakening and sort of make it a little easier for us to navigate those waters. I guess I'll start with, I have a few notes here. I guess I'll start with what is awakening at its core? You know, what is it to awaken? And I think one sentence really sums it up well. Awakening is sort of turning inward and finding yourself. That's really what it is. It's turning inward and it's finding yourself, and it's a very solo experience, really. I want to dispel the idea, first of all, that you can actually awaken others through your efforting. You may remember your awakening, and it may have been triggered by another person, right? Another person may have said something that made you go, whoa. And so then this idea begins to form that this other person awakened me. What truly happened actually is you are experiencing yourself in the mirror, right? You're experiencing yourself through the other person. You awoke because you were ready to awaken. And that is the only time that you'll ever awaken, that anyone will ever awaken, is when their soul is ready, when what could be called a spiritual gravity starts to build inside. This usually builds due to trauma or wounding. It's usually pain that brings us into certain states that we need to get out of. And that's what tends to precipitate the awakening. So the first thing to recognize is that you actually can't awaken anyone. And it really, that's annoying at first, but what that really does is give us freedom, because once we understand that we can't awaken them, we can't lead them anywhere. Once we understand that, it becomes a lot easier. There's a weight off of our shoulders, right? We're not worried about it. If we know it's not possible, like metaphysically, that's not how it works. It's not possible. At least this is my understanding of truth in this area. And of course, if it doesn't resonate, by all means, discard it. But we can't actually awaken them because all we're doing is reflecting to them parts of themselves. And if in those moments they can't understand or can't see what we're saying, and they're not ready to look at themselves, they simply won't. And because they won't, they'll defer. So they'll distract or defer from that topic, or they may look at you with a cognitive dissonance and not understand anything you're saying. This is the law of confusion at work. And if you're interested in learning about the law of confusion, check out the law of one. I always recommend that for anybody regardless, but it talks a lot about the law of confusion. Essentially, people aren't ready to know anything until they're knowing it in themselves. They have to sort of approach the ideas in their own consciousness a little bit before the external coming in will make any sense to them. So if you think back to your awakening, most likely there were periods in your life where you already had some of these ideas. You already had some of these thoughts of, what a weird magical place this is. It feels like things are coming to me just as I imagine they will. Wow, what a strange coincidence that is. And these seeds of thought will eventually blossom and bloom, and then the right water will come in, and it will just, grow from there. So, essentially, the first thing we want to do is understand why we feel the urges to awaken them at all. Why do we feel those? And they come from generally two places. They come from compassion, and they come from judgment. And that may be difficult to hear. It was very difficult for me when I was starting to realize that the reason that I wanted to awaken them partly was because I can see their confused suffering. I can see that showing in their life or in their expressions. I can feel the disharmony a bit. And so then I can feel drawn to, oh, I can help alleviate this, almost like a physician would treat an ailment in a patient, right? It can feel sort of like that. But then there's this other part of me that is sort of rejecting what is sort of seen to be an unconscious type of state, or someone who's less evolved spiritually. And it was difficult for me when I hit that point to really step back and learn how to accept that they're perfect how they are, that they don't need my words or assistance. It's not even that they don't need it. It's more that the ideas that I'm trying to help them with, or that we try to help them with, are not ideas they're calling for right now, because their soul is not ready yet, for whatever reason. And whatever that reason is perfect. There are things they have to see and go through in order to first prepare themselves for the next stage of the journey. Just as, a path goes from point A to point Z, or Z for my American audience, but there's steps that tend to be taken. Now some of the steps can be skipped, and some of them, etc. But generally speaking, there's a process to this. It's not regimented. It's fairly flowy and dynamic, based on and unique to the individual. Everything's infinitely unique, and in that way, the process varies for everybody. But at the core of it, it's the same thing. They're looking. They have to be called internally to look into themselves, and until that happens, they will not awaken. So you can't predict an awakening. You can't even be sure that an awakening is occurring, even if they're saying the right things. And that's another interesting thing. People can seem very woke. They can seem very woke and aware, without being aware sort of their own imbalances and things like that too. And that tends to be the case when we are trying to push our ideas on people. And we also have an urge to end some of the suffering that we've already cleared up in ourselves. We can see that some of the ways we thought about the world is not right. We can almost go, oh my gosh, I've been living in this illusion place, and I'm starting to actually see how things really work. I'm starting to see unity. I'm starting to see how everything's connected, and how everything that truly happens is part of my plan, our plan, each of us uniquely, and each plan's unique and perfect. You start to sort of see that, but then you still have your what I call like your human or lower mind tendencies, which have preferences and desires, and it can be difficult to sit in an energy of somebody that's not reciprocal to your state, right? That's not, we tend to be comfortable when people are behaving like we are. And that's exactly why some of that dissonance happens, where you're talking about how everything's one, or you're talking about maybe galactic beings, or something that you've had an expansion on, and go, oh my gosh, yeah, of course there are entities everywhere, and of course there are entities around me right now, and of course there's spirit, and of course. The other person isn't in that state yet, and you're being to them weird. It's weird. And it's unsettling, because to the egoic mind, that mystery, that confusion of this unknown, unseen realm doesn't feel safe to them. And so they resist it, and it's perfectly okay for them to do so. They don't really even realize generally why they're resisting it, just as we don't often realize why we're resisting things unless we really look at it with a magnifying glass. And that's part of the purpose of this video, is to really give you the actual, how do you actually wake people up? You be awakened. That's all you do. You be conscious of yourself and act as you see fit to act. And then I'll add some stuff to that, but more or less, the other's suffering is perfect. Their mental or emotional suffering is perfect for them, most likely in that moment, right? Actually, I won't say most likely. It's perfect for them. It is perfect for them. And it's important to understand that aspect. However, we are here to serve, generally. Not generally, that's all we can do. Everybody's here to serve. Some know that they're serving creators, some know that they're not, or some believe they're not. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we are here to have the experience, to help the universe experience itself, or help creator experience itself. We do that in duality, so that there can be a manyness which is finite. So experimenting with that. That's the in purpose of this illusory place that we've created. So once we realize that we're here to serve, then we can think, oh, well then my service, I can help people wake up, right? I can help them to find themselves. And yes, sure, you can do that. However, the way that you approach that is, I have found, very nuanced. And there are particular ways to approach that idea that will result in a more smooth experience for you and the other people that you're talking to. So I guess I'll start with what the positive polarity does when offering service. So in true positive polarity, service is offered freely, love is given freely without expectation for anything in return. This is a method of service without speaking. So we're not speaking, we're not saying anything. We are accepting the other person. And to me, love is acceptance. That's really the more accurate thing of love, what love is. It's an unconditional acceptance of what is. So it's not the idea of romantic love where we are, or even a familial love. Those are like a different sort of experience of what love actually really is, and love has no polarity. It's a pure acceptance of others in and of itself. And so the positive or service to others oriented being will offer love unconditionally and acceptance. They will only serve, actually do stuff to serve or offer insights to those who call for those insights, to those who request aid in some fashion. So if somebody is, for example, talking about a negative concept that you can see is holding them in fear, and they're just sort of expressing all of their fear and why they're agitated, they're not asking for your assistance with that. You can offer, say, I went through a similar thing and I had some issues with it, and I worked through it by consulting with these ideas and bringing these ideas into my truth. And that's how I got around it. You can offer that to them, but you have to do so in a very gentle way. If you do it anything other than a very gentle, just almost expectationless offer, there's going to generally have conflict because they're going to feel pushed, they're going to feel pressured. And also they may feel confused, and cognitive dissonance will start to come in because they don't truly want, like their soul's not calling for that information yet. So they're essentially rejecting what you're saying. Just as your urge to correct their orientation, their suffering, is also rejecting them. That urge to do it without being called is could be considered a negative orientation in many ways. Though there's love there too, because there's compassion, right? So it's well intentioned, but it's sort of disrespecting, or dishonoring is a better word. Dishonoring where they are now. It's just, if we push our ideas, we're dishonoring where they are now. So that's why I do these videos this way, for example, is instead of like reaching out to people individually that I see in some sort of turmoil or something and trying to help them, type them messages, certain things, or seeing my friend upset about something and reaching out to them to share with them stuff that I received from the council or who knows, right? Instead of doing any of that, I express myself on the channel. I be as I am, openly and publicly. That's not for everyone to do, so that you don't have to feel pressured to do that. But I just be myself with them, and I try to accept them as best I can. And if I'm having trouble accepting them, I really try to look inside and understand, well, why am I not accepting them? What is it? And then heal that. And so they help me in that way. And then hopefully one day I can help them in some way. Or the other thing too is that just by being, you hear people call us way showers, people who are awakening now, they're a little earlier than the next wave, are way showers. They're showing people how to move through this. They're learning how to move through this and then creating content like this, like I am, to help other people who are interested. So the people that come to this video are going to be people that have manifested that. So the law of attraction at work is another way to look at it. Like the soul and heart begins to call for certain types of information. And then it comes in, and it can come in from YouTube videos. It can come in from intuition. The soul isn't super particular about how it arrives, but the important thing, I think, is to honor yourself without dishonoring anybody else. That's I think the best kind of way to do it, as far as I can see so far. And I wanted to say as well that the negative polarity, the way that the negative entity or negative polarity serves, is that they don't wait to be called, they call themselves. This is, so you can imagine a negative entity may observe a scenario and think, I have to change that, right? So they offer their philosophy to adjust the other person. It's a sort of dishonoring of the other person's experience. And that's sort of how you could see, we have that positive side of compassion that has the urge, but we also have a negative side within us that has the urge just to sort of change their mind, right? And then we rationalize it with the compassion. And that's why that exists in the light worker. And then also a negative entity exists that way too. If they're more negatively oriented, that compassion component is going to be way down low, and it may present in compassion for the self, because listening to these annoying idiots is whatever, right? So you can maybe think about how you're experiencing people that are what you could consider not conscious. They're not awakened yet. And even I don't like to use that term because you really can't assess. You really don't know. The internal thing, they may just not be talking about. Think about all the stuff you're experiencing that you're not telling people about, right? I mean, and still going through the motions. Like you could be at work all the time and just seem like a perfectly normal working person. But when you get home, it's esoteric, everything, and you're just not sharing that with people. So you can't tell. You can't tell what people are doing. You do start to get a sense of a purity from people as they awaken. You start to get a sense of it. But again, always just take all of that assessment with a grain of salt. I recommend trying not to bother assessing, because at the end of the day, ultimately, it doesn't matter really where they're at or where you're at. You're both wherever you're at, and it's perfect. It is as it is. And maybe you can offer service to them, but maybe they don't want your service. Maybe they're not asking for help, right? Maybe the help is to accept them with love. That's, I think that's the deeper service. You can do that deeper service, that more profound service, being the space for them, allowing their negativity not to upset you, right? Allowing yourself, learning how to sit in it. Part of the reason that we feel so called to get involved in their negativity and stop them from it is because we don't like it. It bugs us, right? If we're honest with ourselves, we don't like it. It hurts. It hurts to watch them hurt. It hurts us. And we can experience that in different ways. We can experience it in a selfish way where we're like, oh my God, that person's dumb. Oh, they just keep saying this stuff. I hate when they talk. Or we can experience this like, oh my God, that person's suffering. I need to help them. I need to change their orientation. So however we rationalize it, it's the same thing. We're uncomfortable with their expression, and that's our problem. It's not their problem. So once we can kind of get that orientation, we understand that it goes back to literally Gandhi. Gandhi said, be the change. It's that simple. Be you, and be authentic, and just learn how to accept others who are not like you or of a like mind. Because in reality, in the truth, your mind is infinite, which means the negative things you observe other people doing is you have that capacity too. You've just preferred a different way. But if something changed, you have the capacity to do the things that you see as abhorrent in some way. Everyone has a sort of breaking point, is another way to look at it. These breaking points are often what precipitates awakenings or deepenings into slumber. So, to remember that everyone's holding pain and everyone's trying to move through it, everyone's doing as best they can with the information they have. They have the information they have because that's the information that will help them at that moment. And they won't hear things that they're not calling for yet. They just won't hear it. They'll have cognitive dissonance or confusion. The law of confusion, it's infringement, basically, for a soul to experience for another, or to, in Ra's words, learn, teach, instead of teach, learn. So Ra will teach, and they'll have an experience of learning based on how the other person responds to their teaching. But they don't learn and then dictate to the other what to learn, if that makes sense. You can't tell someone what to learn. They learn as they learn. And you can imagine in yourself, if somebody tells you specifically what to garner from a sentence, it may not resonate. It doesn't make sense, because you'll learn whatever you meant to learn. And this is why in this entire video, a lot of people will get nothing really from it. Other people will pick one little bit, and that's the thing that they'll learn. I think that pretty much covers everything. That's basically it. To awaken others, you be awakened and show an awakened conscious soul that loves others. That's it. When they see you doing that, it triggers this mystery in their mind. They're like, how is this person being this way? Like, this person must be special. You start to think that type of stuff and wonder about it and wonder why they're not like that person. And you have this effect on others that you don't see. You don't see it. Generally, you don't see it. But if you remember that they're the mirror for you and they've affected you in so many different ways just by being around you, you've done that to them too. And in this way, that's why all of these emotional or relational back and forths is always a two-way thing. Dr. Tassel and I, my partner, we often talk about how there's like the relationship has its own consciousness, right? So there's the person, and then the relationship. And both people form that relationship with negativity, positivity, whatever it is, concept, structures, ideas. And then the relationship becomes a thing of its own. And so in that way, you're always just trying to sit in a space of honoring however they feel, and trying to honor yourself if you're uncomfortable, but at the same time recognizing that you don't need to be uncomfortable. You're choosing to be uncomfortable. You're choosing to judge the experience. And, what does Jesus say? He says, judge not lest ye be judged, I believe. I'm not sure if that was Jesus or not, but pardon my memory. But when you judge others, you judge yourself. It feels bad. That's why it's uncomfortable. You're judging yourself when they're expressing themselves. You're just experiencing yourself through them, judging yourself. And it feels bad. And whenever it feels bad, you know that there's a layer of fear, there's a layer of negativity there that needs to be dissolved. So this is not to say that you can't awaken others, that people won't awaken from things you do or say. What it means is that you can't actively pursue that, really. Not in any effective way. All you can do is do and be as you are and go like this. People are going to see or they're not going to see, and that's great. Maybe no one sees. But just doing the effort of like acceptance and sitting in that and accepting them is, I think, all you need to do until they ask for something more direct. They may ask, you know, how are you so kind to people? Or they see somebody flip out on you in a mall and you're just very peaceful and kind. And they're like, how do you do that? And then you can explain. And that's great. But if that doesn't happen, they're still going to wonder. They're going to wonder about things they may not ask. It may never come up. But later you may attribute certain interactions with people to your awakening and realize, oh, that person helped me wake up. And they may not have even knew what they were doing. So that's the important thing. We sort of never know. We don't know what's going on with anyone else's consciousness, how they're experiencing things, their orientation. We only experience ourselves. And that's all the other person also experiences is their self. And so at least at this density, that's my understanding at this density. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that the main point got across, which is not to try to change people. It's just to observe yourself, accept others, and be as you are. There's nothing else to do, my friends, because, you know, you are you, and that's who you should be. All right, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your faces. If you like the video, click the like button and subscribe if you're not already. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.